Hey everyone, welcome back to Reading with Tatiana. Today I'm doing my book review on Sex and Vanity by Kwan, and I gave this book a 2 out of 5. Before I go into my full book review, I would like to do a Booktuber Shoutout to Reading with Merv. I came across her channel recently, and if you like a mix of reading sprints to keep you accountable, book hauls, to-be reads, and book tags, she has the channel for you. I will link her channel down below if you'd like to show Reading with Merv some support. And as always, I would always appreciate it if you can hit the subscribe button, if you can give this video a thumbs up, and if you've read Kwan's book, Sex and Vanity, or any of his other books, I would love to hear what you think of his books down below. A bit about the author Kwan, you've probably heard of him because he is the writer behind a big Hollywood movie, Crazy Rich Asians. And I actually found out from researching about him is that Crazy Rich Asians is actually a trilogy, with the second one being Crazy Rich Girlfriend, and also the third one being Rich People Problems. So Kwan is born in Singapore. Him and his family immigrated to America when he was 11, and now he resides in America. He's actually at times top 100 writers to look out for, and he's kind of known for his satirical writing, which you can see in Crazy Rich Asians trilogy and also in this book as well. Kevin was inspired to write Crazy Rich Asians when his father was sick with cancer back in 2009, and he went to take care of his father, and his father would share stories of what their life was like back in Singapore, just being really lavish and extravagant. I'm not sure if it was his family or maybe just adjacent families, so Kevin was inspired to write down these memories in a book format to solidify these memories, and it was a way to kind of share these people's stories that aren't really shared in mainstream media, and just have a different lens and perspective on these people who do exist in our world. Sex and Vanity by Kwan is a standalone novel. It was published in 2020, and the genre is fiction, and I would say, like comedy, because he is a satirical writer. A quick summary about the book is we meet Lucy, the protagonist. She's 19, and she's invited to a dear friend's wedding in Capri, Italy. It's a very lavish wedding between her friend and some Donatello in Italy. And Lucy here, she meets George Zhao, who is from Hong Kong, and he's also from a very rich family, a different type of rich, obviously, in the book. Lucy's from old money. I think George's family's from new money, and they kind of have a bit of a scandal at the wedding, but then it's swept under the rug because they could never be because of their families. And then we fast forward to 5 years later. Lucy is in New York, and she's engaged to Cecile, who is the most eligible bachelor in the world. And her and Cecile have the perfect life. They have the right cars, the right clothes, the right Instagram followers, and they just have the right connections, and they're just this perfect life. They're both owed money, their names are coming together, and George somehow comes to New York again, and Lucy realizes that, hey, maybe she's living her whole life for her name and not for what she truly wants. Don't want to spoil the story too much, but you can kind of guess what kind of happens. There's a bit of funny run-ins with George and that kind of stuff. And then the other aspect of this book is that Lucy is half Chinese and half white, which is important because in the book she deals a lot internally with that struggle, and she also externally feels a lot of people on the white side of her family treats her differently or wants her to be more white. So there's that aspect of the book as well in this novel. I won't get too much into all the characters in the book, but I think the book, for me, it was a 2 just because there's a huge cast of characters from different types of wealth, and just their reactions to things were really funny. Like, oh, I'll just send my personal assistant, or oh, that ring is only $2 million, or no big deal, that car was $500,000. So it's really funny to see these different types of rich people that Kwan created in the book. Common themes that I found in the book, the biggest one that I kind of shared about before is the struggle about living for yourself and living for your family's name, and also is it what your family really wants for you, or is that just internalized pressure you have on yourself? I think it's something that we all can relate to, especially in the generation we grew up in today, where you don't have to grow up to just be 4 different careers. You can do anything you want. There's people literally just filming themselves on YouTube, and that's a career. So it's just really cool to have that theme prevalent throughout the whole book. Other common themes in the book that I think Kwan touched on is just the idea of wealth and what it means to people, and status and class and society. For me, I couldn't really relate to that in the book just because I feel like I'm just your average middle income earner, but I feel like it was a cool glimpse into that life, especially because it was just so baffling to me that people think about these things in such extreme details. Things I didn't like about this book, there are quite a bit just because I did give it a 2. The first one was Kevin Kwan does a lot of like asterisks in the novel, which was kind of like hard to catch sometimes with the font detailing or the font size and the style. And I felt there was an asterisk in every other page of the footnote. And I think he meant to do that because I think he meant to do it like this person said this, and ooh, side note, sidebar, all this kind of stuff. But I felt it was almost too distracting from the plot, and I didn't really enjoy it. I felt it really was intruding to the story. The second thing I didn't like was a love story, but again, this is a me thing. Is the love story between Lucy and George felt very forced to me. I needed more, I guess, like time for them to believe their love could become a thing. And the third thing is when Lucy is engaged to Cecile 5 years later, is I would have liked to know more backstory of their love because it seemed to just have been, and I just wanted to know more about how they met and how they came to fall in love with each other. So those 3 things for me were really detrimental for my rating just because it felt very choppy when I read the book, and it's meant to be like I think an easy read, but it really wasn't. Things I did enjoy about the book is Lucy is half Asian, half white, and just her struggle about which culture she belonged to. Because I've said before in my previous reviews that had similar topics, is that even though I'm fully Chinese, I was born in Canada. So growing up, I had a lot of like struggle between the Canadian side of me and the Chinese side of me. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the book. And the second aspect of the book is George and his mom, Rosemary. They speak a bunch of Cantonese throughout the book, which I was able to read when I had the phonetic pronunciation, so I really enjoyed that aspect of the book as well. On Goodreads, this book got an average of 3.34 out of 5, which I think is just like, very accurate. It was a very average book. I think some people who really love this book really liked it, but I felt like when I was skimming through the reviews, there were lots of really bad reviews. So why people didn't like it was, I actually haven't read Crazy Rich Asians, I've only seen the movie, but people who have read that book felt this book really fell flat compared to that one. So even though I'm not that interested in reading more of Kevin Kwan's book, because I've read all these reviews, I'm curious to read Crazy Rich Asians to see how it compares. Other reviews that people didn't like was that it was hyper focused on details of the rich that felt repetitive and drawn out and didn't need to be in the book to carry the plot, which I agree with. Other reasons why people didn't like it was it felt it was being too dishy, as in like too dishing out the gossip, which I agree with. It wasn't done in an enjoyable way because in the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, that book was very dishy, but I was intrigued and I was like, oh, I can't wait to read the next page or next chapter. But this book, it was dishy, but it just wasn't executed as well. It just felt, maybe it was just they were too rich, and for the average person, it was hard to relate to. 2 reasons that people did really enjoy this book was they felt it was a quick, easy read. It gave a glimpse of the lavish lifestyle that people have all around the world. And the other reason why people enjoyed it was they felt it showcased really well the microaggressions that Asians or a person of color may feel in a primarily white community. Also, this could be reversed if it is a white person in a primarily Asian community. So this book did a really good job showing that because sometimes racism isn't always like in your face. Now I'll share how this book made me feel because, as always, if you ask me in a year, a week, 2 years from now, I won't really remember what the book was about, but I'll always remember how a book made me feel. So it's my favorite thing to ask people about how a book made them feel. So this book, Kevin Kwan's Sex and Vanity, it made me feel very poor because the way people talk about money and the way they talk about time and the resources is just very like easy. It's equivalent of me saying like, oh, I don't need to recycle that can of pop I just drank, which is a really bad analogy because I always recycle my cans. But it's almost like things for these people are very trivial and it's just very easy to take granted for. So really hard for me to relate to any of the characters, and it made me feel very poor while reading it. That is my full book review for Kevin Kwan's Sex and Vanity. Let me know in the comments below if you read it as well and what you thought of it. And if you want to join me next time, the next book I'm reading starting today is The Push by Ashley Audrain. It's got pretty good reviews on Goodreads, like average of 4+, so I'm really excited. So if you want to join me, I'll see you guys next time. And as always, if you can hit the subscribe button, I'll always appreciate it. Thank you and see you guys next time. Bye.